This is a pixelated mess. I'm sorry. For some reason, I've got like a half megabit upload. So this is a quick little video to let you know that if this doesn't work, I'm admin still. Gassed up, got the tire pressure good, got a new wiper. Then I'm going to go live in Madras. So that's not too far north of here. I don't know if it's just a weird part of town, but I have like no upload speed. Dang it, I think I went live on the wrong phone. Whoops. So anyway, I'll see how this goes, but we're going to try to go to Antelope first, then Shaniko, Kent, and might as well keep me company on the drive home. I will not be checking chat at all, like period. Won't be. So any mods listening, anybody here who knows what's going on, I'm driving home from, giving you guys a view of the eclipse. Just tell people what's going on. It's a drive with me video. So once again, sorry if this is pixelated. I hope that it will just get better as I leave this part of town. It just seems to be like a cell phone dead zone. So let's see if we can get this situated on the dash. Hey Cognito, how you doing? Love you too, chickie baby. Now, I'm hoping this is stable. Now, unfortunately, YouTube seems to have a jelly kind of a stabilization that doesn't work, honestly. Sorry, I might lose you for a second. I gotta turn off Waze on this phone. Make sure it's not on. Okay, got it. And turn Waze on the second phone. I'm doing a mobile hotspot share thing. But like I said, I've got the lowest upload speed with these speed tests I've ever had. It should clear up better. If I have to, you can say stuff in the chat, I can read it later. I'm just not going to interact live with chat. Just tell me if it's a pixelated mess or if there's something wrong, and I'll restart the stream at Madras. So right now I'm plugging into my navigator thing that we're going to Antelope. It'll be the first ghost town we visit. I don't know what is left of Antelope. Wait a second. Is this on the right spot? Make sure. Antelope. Antelope is on the way to Shaniko. I was looking for Friend, and that's the wrong highway. We're staying by 97, and Friend is over by 197. Okay, yeah, we're going to Antelope first. So as I plug that into Waze, which is giving me a fit here. Come on, I don't have to type it again. Come on. Antelope, Oregon. It says we'll arrive. It's 49 miles away. We go now via the main route. Takes about an hour and 5 minutes approximately, but I may make a pit stop at Madras. So here I am in some part of Redmond. Yeah, Tracy, we're going to Antelope, where Operation D for diarrhea happened. If you've seen the Netflix documentary Wild Wild Country, yes, a terrorist cult took over a small town in Oregon like it was a colony, bought it, and started brewing up bioweapons there. You can't make it up. It was in the late 70s or whatever. So anyway, we'll go take a look. I think their high school is still there, but it's I don't know how much of the old original town is around. And check this out. Oh yeah, no more screech. I just bought, for your guys' and my sanity, a new driver's side wiper. I got good air pressure, got filled up with gas. I made my texts to people and said if I don't check in by 7 p.m. then I am a missing person. I've texted people my route. Just, you know, precaution of a woman traveling alone on the road in the middle of nowhere. So it looks like here, I'm on 6th Street. We'll be going through Terrebonne. I guess that's how you say that. Madras is the last kind of civilization type town. And then we'll be headed on the lonely Highway 97 North, which is really remote. We'll be going to Antelope, if everything works out. Antelope, Shaniko, Kent, and we'll end up at the Dalles, and then we'll turn west and go down the Columbia River Gorge, if it's still, you know, hey Bill. Is this a pixelated mess, guys? This is the worst speed test I've ever done. It says we're on 5G. I don't believe it for a second. But we'll figure it out. Now, I'm hoping it improves. And tell me by Madras, which should be like 30 minutes away, it's good? Okay. I don't know. I don't know how it's good. Like, this is weird. Maybe Google speed test is 5x5. Good. Maybe Google speed test is messed up. I don't know. But, okay, this is the last interaction with chat. If you guys could please tell people what's going on. Like, why am I on the road? Where are we going? That would be awesome. Okay, I'm stretching my knees. Okay. So I'm so happy I was able to bring you guys. We saw the eclipse, guys. Most people in Oregon probably saw the clouds, but we got very, very lucky. So hello to everybody. Yeah, here we go. And my apologies ahead of time if T-Mobile just kind of cuts in and out. It sometimes after 15 minutes it reconnects. Oh yeah, we're going ghost towning, guys. Right now. So do stick with it. After about 8 minutes, if it's still buffering or something, go ahead and hit the refresh button. If you guys like more of this, man, this is what I wanted as my big career, you know. If you guys get buffering a long time, you may have to hit the refresh button. I may be back already, but I know that watching other people's streams, sometimes it'll buffer forever when it's actually back. And hit the K button, like the logo, to go to my actual channel. Because if I have to, I may pull over and just restart the stream, and a brand new one could be going. I plan to be streaming most of the day. Wow, there's an interesting helicopter taking off over there to the left. It's, you know, I'm sorry. Close your eyes if you get car sick. It's about to go over that building. Unless it turned. Really weird one, like a Huey or something. Oh, it must have turned. Shoot. Okay. Sorry. This makes you totally car sick. I'll try not to do this again. This is a jury-rigged situation with the dollar store cell phone holder, and it probably shows. Let me center it. Alright, it's better than the... This being silicone probably has... I can't fix how it's off kilter with the horizon, but being silicone, this probably has better shock absorption than the cell phone holder thingy, if you know what I mean, that we were broadcasting in prior. Now let me arrange my cockpit better here. I don't want maximum brightness. Would you please stop? Okay, there we go. Okay, let's go. I hope this is centered. Okay, so no longer interacting with chat, but please inform people and mods. Like, no politics and downer stuff today. Like, we could talk about that as it relates to the ghost towns and eclipse, but man, I just don't want to hear about war and stuff. And go there, you know. So, judicious use of the banhammer has been authorized. Um, you're allowed to choose your own targets and fire when necessary. Okay, so here we go. We're leaving Redmond, Oregon, where we think miraculously we got a glimpse of the sun today. And while I'm in Madras, I think I might switch the SD card out of this dash cam because it probably captured some amazing sunrise stuff in the mountains. Okay, so how's the quality? Are we at least 720p? I hope. 1 mile north, I'd take a right turn, so I'll stay in this lane. There's no real way to even see the tiny font of chat, even if I was stupid enough to try to do that while driving. It's nicer when I got a passenger, like somebody like CPro around, but one day maybe YouTube app will get advanced features such as reading chat aloud. Wow, wouldn't that be amazing? I mean, people like to stream drives. I actually feel like I'm riding with you, you know? There's been some really nice foliage. It is October after all. The leaves out here are a lot more colorful than in the Willamette Valley because I guess it's just been colder out here. A nice cold snap really just bam pops those colors. And there's this special like 2-week period where you've got the cold snaps but you don't have the raging wind which rips the leaves off yet. It's a very, very short period of the year. Oregon used to have the most covered bridges of any state, but the 1962 Columbus Day storm, which was what we call a gale, there's no real word for it. Gale is kind of a generic word. But every once in a while, every 15 to 35 years, a massive storm will bounce off Hawaii like the remains of a tropical storm. And you'll have gusting, but hurricane force winds. And so the 1962 one, even though these happen at least every 10 to 15 years, the 1962 one destroyed most of the barns of Oregon and most of the covered bridges of Oregon on the same day at night. Lifted roofs off of houses and such. And these gales still come around. 2007 was the last one that was just incredible. I lived through that one just barely. A widowmaker fell on the bedroom above me, and if it had dropped from a higher height, that branch would have just punched right through the roof and probably impaled me to my bed. But as it was, it just ripped the gutters off, damaged the roof, and crushed the deck. But the next morning, a different widowmaker was found standing upright 22 feet in the air. And it punched a hole right through the deck and was embedded 4 feet into the soil, 3 to 4 feet. It was very difficult to remove it. So these gales are pretty damn serious. And there should be an actual name for them, but there isn't. Got some snow on the Cascades over there. There's no snow in the passes, it was just damp. But I've got my tire chains anyway. It's just time when you're going to the Cascades to have your tire chains. Now there's this lava rock everywhere. You see how everything's red, like that mountain to the left? It's a cool type of pumice-like lava. Everything around here is volcanic.
Hazard reported ahead.
And a lot of times these highways can't connect east and west because of just straight up lava beds. It's the kind of lava where the rock is so hard that, you know, you can jackhammer it and you just destroy the jackhammer. Like you just can't make a road over it. So that's why the highways out here are a bit erratic. Now behind me, the Three Sisters pretty amazing set of volcanoes. It kind of looks like the Matterhorn, one of them. I've never really seen them. I never really drove the Detroit Lake Pass like I did this morning. And even in the darkness in the morning, you could see the Lion's Head and the Beachy Creek fire, the dead trees everywhere. That was one hell of a mega fire in 2020. That was the one where I just took my headset off and said, "Excuse me, I gotta go evacuate my mom." And they did merge eventually. I thought about driving back that way to show you guys some of the wildfire devastation, but I honestly don't want to see it right now. It's also too cloudy to do a proper job filming. Oh, there's a huge bird nest on that on the electricity pole. It's a very old railway to the right here. I bet it used to run through Shaniko. Shaniko's a ghost town. It's been preserved, thank God. Because it was the huge sheep export depot. Oregon used to have this gigantic, it had two gigantic but now dead industries, the sheep ranching and there's a huge volcano to the left, but it's in clouds. Oh, I wish I could show you. I have no idea which one it is. It's just snow-capped. But it's as big as Shasta, so if anybody knows what volcano is to the northwest of Redmond, well within view, let me know. What's going on here? The two dead industries with the sheep ranching thing, Australia just, America can't compete with the prices, so it's dead. There used to be millions and millions of sheep in Oregon producing some pretty fine quality wool, like Pendleton Wool Mills still survives. But really, sheep are like pets in Oregon now compared to what it used to be as like an actual industry. Just Australia does it cheaper and subsidizes it. So, like American lamb just costs more dollars per pound. They also kind of cheat. They give their sheep all kinds of chemicals. They're banned in the United States, so it's more expensive to raise our lambs here. And there's a whole bunch of alpacas to the right. How cute. And they're like supposed to be toxic, and yet we import Australian lamb, and it's got the toxic chemicals in it. So don't ask me how these loopholes work, but trade agreements can suck. Not that we have anything to complain about, since we subsidize cotton so much that like nobody else can grow it in the world and make a profit. But that's the way it is. Now, woo, $4.59 a gallon there. So we're supposed to go 20 miles north and then right on 6. I hope we have a good high fidelity here. I really do. But anyway, Shaniko was this big sheep depot where they got rounded up off the plains here, all herded over to Shaniko, and then they boarded a train. And Portland especially, and the Dalles and other places had facilities where they would process the sheep. I mean, some probably happened at Shaniko. The ones that, the keepers, the breeders, were probably just sheared at Shaniko. I don't know if what ratio it was to like transporting the live sheep versus, like millions of bales of wool. But nevertheless, it was a mix of both. You had to transport the live animals in stock cars before refrigeration. So Australia's rise in sheep farming, coupled with refrigeration, meant that you could kind of ship lamb meat from anywhere. But pretty much all the sheep herding of Oregon just basically died at once. And we had these Basque shepherds that came from Spain, the Basque people, and they had those gypsy wagons. There's some in California too. Man, there is some interesting rock formations to the right. Just, you can see that they were once volcanoes and the little plugs are sticking up. It was the center of the volcano, but it's so ancient that the rest of the mountain eroded. I don't know too much about volcanology, but I know that much. Anyway, so once the series of misfortunate events aligned, Shaniko was just no longer important. And the death of the town came with the railroad pulling out its line. So it still went east and west, like along the Columbia, from eastern Oregon to Portland, but it no longer went and dipped south to Shaniko. So it was just this big ghost town with tons and tons of barns for sheep that no longer live there. But they turned it into like a car museum. And the people preserved most of the buildings, and they turned it into an antique, classy ghost town, like for antiques dealings. And they had fairs and ghost town days and stuff. That's the way to preserve your town. They had the good fortune to at least be still on a major highway. I mean, major like quotation marks, but not off the beaten path at least. But Antelope wasn't so lucky. It's off the beaten path, so we will be detouring and then traveling north to Shaniko after we go to Antelope. I mean, Antelope, wow, holy crap, there's this major gorge to the right. I wish I could have shown you what was to the right and left when we went over that bridge. It's just a giant canyon of lava rocks. What in the hell is this RAV4 repaired with? Look, this car is repaired with a bunch of diamond plate. What was that called? It's like, oh, that is the tackiest thing I've ever seen. Somebody repaired their fenders on the left side of the car only with chrome diamond plate, or like fake tire tread. Wow, I'm not using the right word. What is that word? Oh my god, it's like steel plates, but it's got punched into it the weird little textures that look like confetti. That is the tackiest thing ever, at least to the other side to match. Oh wow. That would make a German twitch. In Germany, like, if you have a big scratch on your car or a dent, like, the police pull you over and say, what is this about? You need to make your car look respectable again. You can't go driving around with Bondo or shenanigans. Kind of admire that in a way. You're kind of scared of that in a way. So anyway, it got so bad in 70s, when most of these Eastern Oregon towns are just dying. All the industries that used to exist just kind of went away. Modernization versus highways being rerouted versus automation of farming. Like back in the day, it took a huge amount of human labor to pull in even 1 acre of harvest, no matter what you were growing. Pre-mechanization. And pre-mechanization, you had everybody from blacksmiths to horse veterinarians and everything for the working livestock. And people who made axles for carriages and stuff, like carpenters, they all had to be on site to repair all this stuff. And that just all kind of poofed really quickly in the 1920s. With refrigeration and tractors and stuff. Suddenly it takes, 13 people per acre or whatever to bring in a harvest. And then it was like 13 people to bring in more than 300 acres in a week during harvest. So just mass unemployment and the exodus of So by the 1970s, a lot of these ghost towns were attacked with 20% to 10% of their population. So some of them got desperate, like, why don't we just sell the town, hoping that somebody would buy it, you know? And oh boy, did Antelope have a buyer. A cult bought it. The locals were none too happy about that. I mean, Eastern Oregon is entirely red. It's very conservative. And it looked like a bunch of hippies had bought the town. And yet, they weren't like hippies. They were complete and utter weirdos, even to hippies. And they all dressed the same, and they had a guru that they basically worshipped, and blah blah. But he almost never spoke. And to this day, there's a big controversy. Like, was he really a mad cult leader, or was he actually an old man with dementia who was held hostage by the cult leaders just below him? I don't know. If he was really in charge, he was crazy like the fox and pretended to be the helpless victim of his lieutenants. That's super genius if you're planning to do evil, you know, and mass poisonings and stuff. Pretend like you're a hostage when you're the master dead. Sorry, we're back. I guess we got cut off there. We may get cut off a little bit. I was just saying, it's genius if you are the evil mastermind. And they didn't want to just take over a town, they wanted to take over the county. Just pretend like you have dementia and that you're a hostage to your lieutenants. I mean, that's genius. So it was either like a super evil genius or truly a helpless victim with dementia. Or a mental health problem like schizophrenia or something. I haven't seen Wild Wild Country, but you know, when I first started researching ghost towns and wanted to make my grand database and website about it, I started, you know, with the ghost towns of Oregon. I started alphabetically, so Antelope and Astoria have some of the most crazy stories. I couldn't believe. It's just those two towns and their story. Like, all the meat and potatoes about the craziest stuff that goes on in Oregon ghost towns is in the A's. And if you go alphabetically, I think everything else gets a little bit more disappointing as you get towards the end of the alphabet. I mean, Astoria, Washington Irving, the guy who wrote Sleepy Hollow, you know, Thomas Jefferson's buddy, wrote a gigantic telephone book-sized novel about Astoria, and it's a page-turner, gripping read every single page. It's another one of those true stories that you just won't believe unless history didn't document this stuff. Right after Lewis and Clark came back, there was this kind of race against Canada to try to claim the Pacific Northwest. Like, put some settlement on it to claim we settled it first. So that, you know, America gets it, not Canada. And it wasn't a race that was published in the newspaper. It was just kind of like Thomas Jefferson's goal. Mind you, the Louisiana Purchase just happened, so it's California is owned by Spain. Like, it is not at all certain that America's borders will go past the Mississippi River at all. Most Americans have no idea what is past the Mississippi. Like, there's no maps really, except for what Lewis and Clark did. And the tall tales the trappers said, you know, I mean, people are talking talking about, trappers were talking about Yellowstone and the geysers and stuff, and nobody believed them. And Spain was hostile with the missions and everything. So if you wanted to sail to the Pacific Northwest, some fur trappers were doing it out of Boston because the sea otter trade was hot. Sea otter pelt trade. And really long story short, John Jacob Astor, America's richest person, probably pretty much the richest American who ever lived, because you can't really put a monetary price tag on Manhattan, and he basically owned all of Manhattan Island. I mean, if you just calculate his wealth in dollars, he's like the third richest American who ever lived. But if you calculate the value of Manhattan, then, you know, New York, I still think he was America's richest person ever. He had his own American fur company, and he figured out that if he bought trade goods in England, like really nice quality glass, they traded nice stuff to the Indians. There's a myth that it was like cheap trinkets and stuff, whatever. No. Venetian glass beads and glass works, copper kettles, those have always been luxury items. Things like that from England. If he took his trade ships from England, well, basically they started in New York, right? So American goods go to England. He trades the American goods in England for that stuff. He makes a 3,000% profit, basically. And then that stuff comes back to New York, and so English goods come to New York, and that's a 3,000% profit or something. And then in New York, he takes those trade goods, goes all the way around South America to Hawaii. Makes a huge amount of profit trading with the Hawaiians. Then from Hawaii to the mouth of the Columbia River, well, he could pay whatever prices the Indians want, but if he started a fur trading fort at the mouth of the Columbia River, the Indians couldn't really exploit the sailors anymore, because what the Indians were doing were like selling the beaver pelts and the otter pelts and whatever cheap, but since they had to eat, you know, they would sell all the way from Hawaii and had no food by that time. Oh, a salmon was like $600 each, man, in today's money. Oh, you want food? That's a different price tag. So if they had a fort though and produced their own food, they could trade more of an even footing with the Indians, and then they could compete. There's only some Indians were at the mouth of the Columbia, like the Chinook. But if they had an export terminal at Astoria, and then founded some smaller trading posts all the way up to Canada, up the Columbia, then they could be trading directly with the other smaller tribes and cut out the middleman. So this was a great plan, and so Thomas Jefferson rubber stamps it, and the War of 1812 is about to break out with England, which is like America's re-declaration of independence. Like it was when Britain tried to take America back. The British had been kidnapping Americans at sea and making them become British sailors, you know. So Thomas Jefferson says, hey, I've got this awesome sea captain guy who's a war hero. You know the Marine song, from the shores of Tripoli, blah, blah, blah. That was when Barbary pirates off of North Africa, you know, kidnapped a bunch of Americans, and so Marines stormed the castle and rescued the Americans, and it was a really badass thing that needs to be a movie. Hand-to-hand combat and trickery and all this. So this captain was one of those veterans and a very good warrior. And he goes, this guy will be your captain of your armed trading vessel called the Tonquin. And so John Jacob Astor goes, cool, okay. And that was the worst mistake of his life, and one of the great mistakes of the history of the United States. Because not only was this captain kind of going insane, hated Indians with a passion, like wanted them exterminated. And what is the business partner of a fur trading company? It's Indians. They're business partners. They're not enemies. You treat them with respect, goddammit. And the fur traders did. Mind you, this is not colonialism. This is not let's go settle. The fur traders did not like settlement because it took away wild habitat and it destroyed the Indians, and that's their trading partners. So it's nothing like that. But long term, Thomas Jefferson realizes that wherever we put forts, we've got a greater claim to it when it comes down to making a border with Canada and the West. So I think the USS Constitution, or one of those really cool tall ships that still exists, escorted the Tonquin, which was John Jacob Astor's ship, out of the harbor in like 1810 or so. And it had a 2-year voyage to go all the way around South America, go to Hawaii, because you have to avoid the California coast because the Spanish will mess you up. And then from Hawaii to Astoria. And so, just in case the ship wrecked or something, John Jacob Astor sent an overland party that would basically walk from New York to the mouth of the Columbia, following the maps of Lewis and Clark, which actually really sucked. I mean, they were okay map makers, but they took the worst way possible to the Pacific Ocean. They went along the Snake River, which is god-awful. They're like in a desert. It's far eastern Oregon and Idaho. And you look down and there's all the water in the world in the Snake River, but it's 3,000 feet below you. How the hell do you get it? And they basically went through the Blue Mountains, but not through an easy pass, which are called the Little Alps for a reason. So if the ship sank, then Astoria would be founded by the overland party. And if the overland party got killed, or just died of starvation and or thirst and or Indian attack, whatever, at least the ship would found Astoria. Either way, they were supposed to meet in 2 years at the mouth of the Columbia River. And they did, basically. But the captain of the Tonquin went completely bad. And basically the executives of the company, I mentioned like the CFO and all the executives of the company are on board, you know. They tried to yank authorization for him to, you know, to basically be in control of the ship. They tried to yank it away from him because he started trying to get people killed, basically, who he didn't like. And he produced a piece of paper, unfortunately. The captain had a signed piece of paper from John Jacob Astor himself that says, I have final say over everything on board the ship, period, while we are at sea. Above, authority above the executives of the company. And they were like, oh crap. And this is one of the worst mistakes ever. Like, ever in the history of mistakes. When they went to Falkland Islands, which is off South America on the east side, to get some water and hunt some birds for food, you know, kind of like turkeys, sort of. The captain said, be back by 7 o'clock or whatever, or I'll leave without you. Like, this is an example of him going mad. I mean, we turn right on 6th Avenue. Let's see that. We're in Madras, right? I think so. Yeah, this is Madras. Hey, this is Smokey the Bear. And that's an elaborate firehouse. Yeah, not much fire danger today. So 1, 2, 3, 4. That's a 6-engine firehouse. Pretty sweet. You know, there may not be a bathroom for a long period of time yet. I'm starting to debate with myself. Should I pull over? Yeah, there's a Dairy Queen. yeah, let's go to Dairy Queen. Oh yeah, I could get a moon latte. Heck yeah. But really, you're gonna want to know what happens to this ship, the Tonquin. You don't want to know, but you want to know. Okay, so where do we park? Where do we park? This should only take me a minute. Unless it's one of those go retrieve the bathroom key things, and in which case I'm gonna cry. Okay. Let me buy a Jiffy Lube. I'll be right back. I'll just leave it running. But I'm gonna use the facility while I can. Okay, I'm almost back. I just gotta throw something away. Ugh. Not gonna rain. 1% chance of precip might. Beep. I can tell it's gonna rain. My knees hurt. Okay, howdy people. Welcome. Alright, I'm gonna say something. It's a very important announcement. Dairy Queen has a secret beverage.
Light view for your safe driving. Starting normal recording.
Shut up.
Powering down.
I'm gonna pull the SD card so we can save the lovely drive from this morning. If you were there with my morning drive, it was not as beautiful as on stream as it was on this SD card because it made everything too bright. Let me do the card. So, I'm sorry, I'll look at chat for a little bit, then I'll get back on the road. Thanks for being here. Please donate gas money if you can. If you can't, don't sweat it. Let's see. Yeah, these SD cards are okay to use. This one is a 32 gig. Yeah, I hope we didn't already overwrite something. I'll put in a 128 gig. Okay. Yeah, a 128. There we go. Now, the secret beverage at Dairy Queen. It used to be on the menu. Don't ask me why it's not. It's called a Moo Latte. Cappuccino flavor. Now, try saying cappuccino Moo Latte first. Somebody actually might know what you're talking about, since it was on the menu like 3 or 4 years ago. And don't buy a Blackview. These are the worst dash cams ever. Like, they automatically override. I didn't buy a dash cam for any other reason but to actually record my drives. So don't ever override anything, goddammit, please. But that's what it does. It just overwrites stuff. It was like $300. It's 4K, but it's only 30 frames a second. So everything's blurry.
Light view for your safe driving.
You can't shut it up. Continuously clocks.
Starting normal recording.
Does that. And it's supposed to have had amazing night mode. Not really infrared night vision, but you're supposed to be able to get the license plates of anybody that hits you or goes off and does something. But at 30 frames a second, it can't get the license plate of anything. It's just a big blurry thing. It's really not 4K, it's pretty ugly. Just because of the compression technology, and nighttime videos look like crap. And I didn't pay $300. I paid like $230 or something like that years ago during Amazon Prime, but it's not even worth $100. So it is pretty crap. And as soon as I got it, the side of it fell off. There's a fire with 7 to 10 acres with moderate rate of spread in Klamath County, I think. It's not like I can monitor that right now. And there's a pop-up with watch duty. Anyway, Blackview is supposed to be one of the best dash cam companies. It sucks really bad. It's supposed to sync with your phone, and you can take it's supposed to be super fast Wi-Fi transfer of the of the video to your phone, and it takes about 7 years to just make the Wi-Fi connection. It'll say can't connect, can't connect, can't connect. And then once it is connected, it'll take another 7.5 years to download even one video. So it does stupid crap like you can put a 128 gig card in it, but if you do, it says check the card, check the card, check the card, and it won't do anything. In reality, you're not supposed to check the card. You're supposed to hit a button to format it, and that's it. But I didn't know that. So when I drove to Tahoe a couple of years ago in the snow, and it was one of the most beautiful drives that I've ever driven, you know, the Caldor Fire thing, it just said check card, check card, check card, and there's no way, I don't know what the hell it means. And so I had to pull out the 128 gig card, put in the stupid 32 it came with, and then it overwrote itself, and so the entire gorgeous drive to Tahoe, in which somebody stole my GoPro off the top of my car, I believe, and so the suspect was like walking by, that was overwritten. And that's when also a gravel truck put gravel all over my windshield and just about broke it, and paint chipped the roof of the car. I assumed my dash cam had it as well as my GoPro. The GoPro may have fallen off the car because of the gravel truck. I don't know. But this dash cam just went ahead and overwrote everything. It's supposed to automatically detect vibrations, file it under a collision, and say this can't be overridden, but it doesn't work. So don't buy it. Goddamn black food, they suck. Anyway, Dairy Queen. It's called the Cappuccino Latte, and if they don't know what you're talking about, you just say, hey, make it like a mocha without the mocha flavor. Or make it like whatever flavor is advertised, just don't add the flavor. Because it's straight up coffee mix. And with whipped cream on top. It's about the best thing you can get commercially. Like from a big chain, you know. Coffee drink. So it'll perk me right up. Okay. It's time to look at chat. It's the most unflattering selfie cam in the history of selfie cams. I really don't like. Hey, Randall Smith. Hey, welcome back, Jane. Yeah, I'm getting you all a treat. With this secret knowledge now, you can get the best thing. The best coffee drink. Bill D says OPB has great documentaries. They have a chapter on it, on Astoria. Yeah, there's a couple books on Astoria. I've read them all. The best, which is very short, is called Adventures of the First Oregon Settlers. Now that's a guy who just kept a diary. It's very short, and it's some of the best writing I've ever, looked at. Are we there yet? Yeah. Let's see here. Yeah, Cognito. Okay, I think I've gone through everything. So we're in mattress. I had to
Parking mode on.
shut up. You hear it saying parking mode on and all that? Okay, so we'll be getting back on the road here now. The first stop is Antelope, where like I said, the crazy cult thing happened. The high school, if that's still standing, that would be the best thing to photograph. I really don't think there's a way to miss it. There's just like an old grid of streets on Google Maps. Google Car hasn't been there since like 06 or something. Like, it's really bad looking. So we'll figure it out. I don't think there's a way to not find a 2-story high school in a town of 8 to 15 residents. There's just not a lot of buildings left. And due north of Shaniko, the big sheep empire town that became a big preserved tourist ghost town. Now, it's 1:40. We will lose. There'll be sunset just before 6. So I don't know how much of the Columbia River you'll be able to see. I don't know how much time we're going to spend in Shaniko or anything, but we'll just meander, right? Okay, so what I was talking about was the story of Astoria. The one by Washington Irving is a telephone book, but it's still a page turner. And he liked Indians, so he goes on and on about how Native Americans in the Pacific Northwest, like the Nez and stuff like, did things. You can skip it if you want, but it's still pretty damn fascinating. And he basically just says the captain chosen for the ship, the Tonquin, who was going to found Astoria. It was a private founding of a town, you know, of a fur trade fort, by John Jacob Astor, like richest American ever. You know, so he's like, yeah, I'll just buy his ship, and it had like 10 cannons on it and everything. Like it was a tri-masted bark, I think. Like I think it had 3 masts, but it had a complement of 10 cannons, and so just in case the British tried to hijack the ship, because the War of 1812 was about to begin. Unfortunately, I gotta cool it here and drink a little bit before we resume the journey. Unfortunately, John Jacob Astor personally said, yo, on the phone to Thomas Jefferson, said, can I get can you give me a captain with some war experience? And Thomas Jefferson was, yeah, just the man. And he like did hand-to-hand combat where they used like hatchets and stuff to rescue American hostages from North Africa. At Tripoli, that's what the Marines sing about. So he's this badass Marine, but he's going insane. And I don't know if he was insane before the voyage or after, but there's a very long story about it. But he was a weird stickler like this. He tried to assert absolute dominance over these, I mean, he's basically corporate execs on his ship that expect to be treated like corporate execs, right? Adventures of the First Oregon Settlers, and it's going to be a free book if you want to just get a free book. It is published on Amazon, and it's about this thick. It's a wee book, but it'll change your perspective on American history. Like, it's amazing. Washington Irving's telephone book called Astoria. It's just called Astoria, and it's a masterpiece too. It's good to have both perspectives from somebody who's there versus, you know, literary giant like, you know, Washington Irving, who puts a poetic flair on everything. But Washington Irving straight up says this guy chosen to be the captain that Thomas Jefferson handpicked was a straight up flaming anti-Indian racist who thought they should all be dead, and that's not who you want. Sensitive, culturally sensitive, let's trade with Indians mission. This is a 2-year voyage, so if somebody on the ship, if you become, if your name is Mud, you know, if you are hated on board a ship and nobody will talk to you, it's as good as solitary confinement. Yeah, if you get a PDF, then what I want to do is create my own audiobook out of it. I suck narrating, I hate my voice, but if I can't hire somebody, I'll read it myself, because more people should know about this. It should be required reading in American history, and kids would not hate history if it was. It's amazing. So the point is that this captain, they stop at the Falkland Islands for, let's get some fresh food and water, right? He says, everybody, straight to the corporate execs and everything, everybody be back by 7 o'clock. There were no wristwatches at the time, but you get it, you know. Or I'll leave you behind. Like, his job is to transport these corporate execs, you know, 10,000 miles. And he's threatening to leave anybody behind who's not back by 7. So they lost track of time. They were chasing game and hunted some birds somewhere, and probably just thought he was bluffing. And he weighed anchor at 7 o'clock and started fucking sailing away. They panicked, got into their little rowboat thing and tried to get back to the ship. And a storm and heavy seas came in. And they were obviously not catching the ship. Everybody on board the ship was like, we're going to stop and get them, right? They're foundering, like they're taking on water. They're almost sinking. They're going to die. There's no life rafts. I mean, there's no life rafts or life preservers or life vests or anything at this time. And he goes, no. He goes, no, we're going to leave him to die, basically. And so everybody's like, what? On board? Like, what? So this badass, God, I can't remember his name right now. He wins the Badass Catherine Award. His uncle is struggling in that little boat, right? He goes down below, and he was like 18 at the time, or 17, maybe 20. He goes down below, comes back up, fiddling with something. And Captain's still hard ass, just watching the people founder, and they're screaming for help, by the way, chasing the boat. And that's when there's a little pressure on the back of his head and the click of the little handgun, flintlock pistol probably. It says, you will turn this ship around. Now. I mean, holy crap. In this era, a captain can have you flogged to death. Especially a badass naval hero. It's 1810. You can even get keel hauled, which is beyond torture. So that's why they turned around and picked up the nearly dead, half-drowned hypothermic men. And so the captain was Mud after this. His name was Mud. Everybody decided to speak French or Indian or an Indian dialect around him, and no one spoke to him in English anymore. So he's basically, from this point on in the voyage, in solitary confinement. And he just went completely bonkers. And he did get other people killed at other instances. It seems out of spite. Like at the mouth of the Columbia River, he says, somebody go out in a little boat and test how deep it is. And yeah, there is it's important to do that so that you don't try to enter the mouth of the river on a sandbar, right? It's time to get on the road. But you don't do that in a storm. Come on. And you don't do that with people who have never done that before, like, you know, randomly handpick people on the ship that you just personally don't like and want to get killed. So that is what happened. He got a bunch of people killed at the mouth of the Columbia. Like, he was an insane captain. Okay, we go onto 5th Street. But you won't believe what, it gets worse. It gets way freaking worse. Like the Overland Party, John Day was part of that party. I think I've told you guys a little bit about John Day. I was stripped naked, robbed and left for dead by Indians in the middle of Oregon, and all I got was a stupid town in the river named after me. I mean, that's John Day's t-shirt. That I should sell that in the town of John Day. I should. In fact, that's my get-rich idea. So the Overland Party struggled, and that's why the book Astoria is so thick, because it chronicles the crazy misfortunes of the Overland Party as well. I mean, it takes 2 different experiences, 2 years to get to Astoria. The ship crew and the Overland Party. Okay, so we turn right in 1/4 mile onto 97 North. What a cute little town Madras is. Embarrassingly, most of my life I've been calling it Madras because I thought it was so dang French, you know. I could say most. I can say most Oregon names correctly now. But yeah. So they do make it to Astoria, and a bunch of Indians tried to guide the ship in. Like, they were used to this. Boston fur traders sailed over there sometimes. And so they got at risk to themselves out on a sandbar and tried to point the channel. But does the flaming racist anti-Indian captain take their advice? Hell no. So he grounds the ship and runs it aground on a different sandbar, and they nearly capsize at Astoria, which is Columbia River Bar is called the Graveyard of the Pacific for a reason. It's the world's most dangerous bar, which means where a river meets the sea. I don't know why it's called bar, but whatever. Death Channel or something would be a more appropriate name. And so a bunch of people get off and they're there to found the fort, but some need to stay with the ship because the ship, the Tonquin, is going to go north to Vancouver Island, which was mapped by, Captain Cook and everybody. 1700s, so like 20 years prior. And the Indians were well known there. They were going to go trade for sea otter pelts and then come back to guard the fort, as it's being created, because the 10 cannons of the Tonquin ship were kind of necessary to make sure the fort survived until completion, because John Jacob Astor knew the trade with the Indians. He said, most of them are good, but for God's sake, don't make yourself vulnerable and just look like a target. Just don't park your Lamborghini with windows down, the keys in it, and the engine running in a bad part of town. You just don't do it. What Indians want, other than alcohol, is power and guns. And that's what a ship is, and that's what a fort is. It's guns. It's not guns like handguns, but guns like cannons. Don't give Indians guns or alcohol, ever. Just don't. Treat them with respect, but don't trust. Trust but verify if you trust. Because you never know if a tribe is under new management or not. Maybe a totally innocent and friendly tribe at one point. The friendly and the friendlies lose control, and it's more of like the bandit youth, warlike youth takeover. You just never know what the hell's going on in there. So there's strict orders where respect the Indians, do not trust, and never ever let more than like 12 of them on board the ship at a time. Just don't. Just make a line, Remember, you are 10,000 miles away from assistance, and it will take 2 years for anybody to arrive to help you. It's a long time to be a hostage. So, by this point in time, the mad captain was beating his chest saying, I got you here to Astoria safe and sound. And that's when the crew goes, and everybody on board goes, yeah, except for, the people you got killed, like a dozen of them. Which, well, other than that, or maybe 6, something like that, but almost 12. So, Mackenzie, I believe his name was, who was like one of the top, most respected traders with the Indians. He had come from the Northwest Company, I believe, jumped ship to join John Jacob Astor's company. He was very respected, kind, but wise, and he spoke like 14 Indian languages, maybe not completely fluently, but well enough. He really should have been in charge of the interaction with the natives. But because of that piece of paper that the captain had that said John Jacob Astor signed, that he was always in total control on board the ship, that meant that because the trading with the Indians was on board the ship, he was going to do whatever the hell he wanted. And since he hated Indians, he was going to do and hands them over to the author. I can't remember his name right now. Alexander, I believe, who writes Adventures of the First Oregon Settlers. This is off the top of my head. I haven't read the book in 5 years. But he says, please take care of my 14-year-old son because I don't think we're going to come back. This captain's going to get us all killed. And he's totally right. So the Tonquin sails off into the sunset, literally, west, out of Columbia, and away from the Fort Astoria, which is under construction. Never to be seen again by white people's eyes. What happened to the ship trickles down eventually to Astoria in terrible rumors. But since none of the Indians that were, reluctantly and minimally explaining the rumors, since none of them were fluent English speakers and none of them had witnessed what happened to the ship, they didn't really want to believe it. But they made it to Vancouver Island and they picked up an Indian who was a slave. And there's a lot of slavery in the Pacific Northwest, Indian on Indian slavery. The tribes lived in fear of the slavers coming by. The Americans who tried to trade with them for beaver and otter pelts were pretty dismayed when the Indians said, you want to buy some people? You got people for sale. Check their teeth out, they're in good condition. At some point they picked up this linguist of a slave who knew French and Spanish and English and native tongues well enough to be a good translator. He pretty much was the only survivor, so he later tells the tale, and the only thing we really know about what happened to the Tonquin is through his eyes and his perspective, and then written down by the white traders in a story. And so Adventures of the First Oregon Settlers has got a version. And then there's a version with Astoria that Washington Irving writes. But Washington Irving interviewed a lot of the different Astorians and got several perspectives. Slightly different. But I trust Alexander Ross, that's the guy who wrote Adventures, the most, because he's, while he is writing a book that needs to have entertainment value, he's not like a pro writer, that's not his job. He was a trader who decided to write some memoirs. Washington Irving was kind of like an American Shakespeare, you know. Anyway, the ship never came back. It was supposed to be back within a month or so. The brilliance of this trade system was pretty much a 1,000 to 3,000% profit every time one of John Jacob Astor's trading ships went to any port. It starts off with American goods in London for the Venetian glass and nice copper kettles and stuff like that to trade with the Indians. And these beads are still impressive today. I've seen pieces of art. The Indians were not stupid. They were not swindled. They were hardcore wealth-building capitalists involved in slavery, in competition with other tribes to just dominate hardcore. They were more like Aztecs, a system that was extreme. You know, you can give your upper class special tattoos. You can give your upper class special costumes. That, like in Rome, nobody can wear purple but the emperor and senator. Having a misshapen head, they practiced head flattening on their babies. So they had literal okay, I hope we get more stable. gorgeous. This is a thing. Now, the stream will be interrupted from time to time. Just give it time. Just give it time. If 5 minutes goes by, hit the refresh button. If more than 5 minutes goes by, just check my channel, see if I've made a second stream. Sometimes 10 minutes go by and then we reconnect. And we should be at our destination in 25 minutes at Antelope. Okay. I'll resume my story so that I hope it makes sense. I don't know when exactly I lose you and when I don't. You see the topsoil of Eastern Oregon used to be above our heads, but the great floods of the Missoula flood, when the Ice Age Dam broke, destroyed all of Eastern Oregon's topsoil. It washed it away out to sea, and it never has come back. So it's this place we're driving rivers. The Ice Age scoured these channels because the flood was so intense. It was like boulders just tumbling along in the stream, and it made these deep channels. So every single stream, river, and whatever is in a deep canyon in Eastern Oregon, and it's completely unnatural. From, it's damage from the Ice Age that never healed. I guess that's natural, but whatever. You get what I'm saying. I like having a V6. Man, this RV driver, man.